France, December 1944. Advanced landing ground, 58. We'd been flying into Bastogne for weeks. Every road we opened, a German tank closed again. You haul in bandages at dawn, and by dusk a panther has written its name across the same road in steel. Somebody pointed at a parked C-47 and said, "What if we put a tank gun on that thing?" I laughed, then realized he wasn't joking. The rain didn't laugh either.
Any air, this is Dog 1. Requesting cover, visibility nil, armor moving through the orchard line. Negative Thunderbolts, repeat, P-47's grounded. We'll take anything with wings.
There's no official record of what happened next. No neat file folder. Just a few greasy memos, some singed knuckles, and one hell of a story. Names Howard Red Morgan, 439th Troop Carrier Group, 91st Squadron. Buddy Cole rides right seat and keeps me honest. Bill Porter keeps the bird alive. With a wrench, a prayer, and language the chaplain won't print. We move men and milk and miracles. When weather says no. We won't find our kind in the posters. We're the truck drivers of the sky. We haul paratroopers at midnight, sacks of flour at noon, and boys bleeding quietly whenever noon goes bad. The C-47 isn't pretty. She doesn't preen. She just shows up.
Convoy stalled, inbound armor, flares available. God, where are the birds? Any Dakota able to lift? Repeat, any Dakota.
Tonight, the question wasn't about orders. It was about options. About not letting those voices on the radio go thin and then silent. About using what we had, because nothing else was coming through that weather. Buddy said, "You can't just bolt a cannon into a cargo plane." Porter said, "You can bolt anything into anything if you're cold enough and mad enough." I said nothing. I just kept looking at the nose and wondering how hard a mule can kick. Here's the truth they don't put in manuals. Desperation is a fine engineer. It sands down protocol and leaves you with math, metal, and motive. Bastogne was asking for angels. We had a bus with wings, so we taught the bus to bite. Name a rulebook page that tells you how to do that. Go on, I'll wait.
Copy. Armor at the bridge. Need anything airborne. Over.
That night, the truck with wings stared back like it already knew the answer. And if you listen close, under the rain and the engines and the cussing, you can almost hear it ask the only American question that matters when the chips are down. Why not? The C-47 wasn't a fighter. Thin-skinned, no armor. Just two twin wasps built for endurance, not for show. But she could take off when nothing else could. Mud, snow, crosswind. She'd still claw her way up like a stubborn mule. She was a truck with wings. But she always came home. Even when half the instruments quit and the heater gave up at 20,000 feet, she'd find her way back by smell and habit.
Control
You name a
tower,
front,
this is
and she's been there.
C-47, over.
Normandy, Holland, Bastogne, hauling paratroopers, ammo, blood plasma, and sometimes bodies. They called her a sky train, but to us, she was just a friend that didn't quit. By late 44, the map looked like a chessboard melting in the snow. Every move cost fuel we didn't have, and every foggy day cost lives we couldn't spare.
Thunderbolt flights are grounded, repeat, grounded. Fog's a blanket, we can't see 10 yards. Armor pushing through hoofalize, over.
If it flies and drops anything that hurts, we'll take it. We can mark with flares if anyone's crazy enough to come through.
We heard it in our headsets. Same boys we dropped last month. Same accents, same jokes. Thinner now. You can tell when a man's been cold too long, his voice shakes, even through static. Thunderbolts couldn't get off the ground. Typhoons blind in the soup. So the infantry waited in the mud. We waited on the tarmac. Two kinds of stuck. Both freezing. Command wanted miracles. Headquarters wanted reports. What we wanted was a way to hit back. On paper, she could cruise at 230 miles an hour. In this soup, half that, maybe less. You could jog faster if you weren't knee-deep in hell. Still, she kept flying. While the fighters sat iced over, we kept the line alive. Bandages, rations, radio batteries, anything that fit in the hold. Every night we told ourselves it was enough. That maybe holding the line meant surviving another sunrise. But down there, the armor kept crawling. Panthers, tigers, same metal nightmares crawling through fog like ghosts that refused to die. When you've watched tanks grind over the same road you just resupplied, you start asking stupid questions, and that's where good ideas usually begin.
Dog 1 to air, still no support. Enemy armor inside the orchard, request immediate. Say again, no fighters airborne, fuel shortage, visibility 30 yards.
Somewhere between the static and the snow, someone said it again. What if our trucks could fight back? And this time, nobody laughed. I don't remember who said it first.
What if our
Maybe it
trucks
was
could
Buddy,
fight back?
Maybe a mechanic half frozen behind a coffee tin stove. But in that moment, the airfield went quiet, like even the wind wanted to hear the answer. So someone asked the question. No manual could answer. What if our trucks could fight back? They gave us one old bird. No orders, no manual, no sleep. She was an old transport wings full of patches, one engine that coughed on cold starts, but she was all we had. We stripped her bare seats out, floor plates off, wiring gutted. Bill Porter welded Jeep steel to her nose. Buddy Cole rewired the trigger to the co-pilot's stick. Porter, hand me the 916. Young mechanic. Which one, Sarge? Porter. The other 916. Young mechanic. We lost both good ones in Sicily. Remember? Buddy, you lose wrenches like I lose sleep. Porter. Keep talking, Cole, and I'll talk your jaw. Red. Be nice, boys. We're installing a tank gun in a truck with wings. Buddy. What could possibly go wrong? Porter. If it fires more than once, spears on me. Young mechanic. Say that louder, so Fate can hear you. Red. Fate's busy in the Ardennes. Let's not bother her. Unofficial experiment. Deck 19. 44 Field Depot, France. Cannon used. 75mm M4. Sherman tank gun. Every man in that hangar had grease under his nails and frost in his breath. We weren't trying to change the war. We were just trying to even the odds. The nose wasn't built for a cannon. It was built for air and luck. We had to teach it to carry fire. A 58. 23 40 hours. Nose reinforcement, scrap, Jeep plate. Across station 30 to 60. Recoil dampers cannibalized from a Mitchell wreck. Firing circuit rerouted to co-pilot column. Fuses popping. Replaced with radio spares. Manual load only. 1 round at a time. Expect violent recoil. Brace. You could smell those words. Hot steel, ozone, and cold breath. Buddy, I'm tying the trigger to my column. If it arcs, you'll hear me swear before you hear the shot. Red. If we hear either, we're alive. Porter. If I hear both, I'm ducking. Men work different when they're tired. Fewer words, truer words. By midnight, the hangar sounded like a church made of tools. Buddy. God, my gloves are soaked. Coffee's gone. Hands are numb. At least the plane's warm from all the welding. Porter. Warm? That's your sleeve on fire. Buddy. Well, hell. Adds character. Red. You two keep arguing. I'll start charging tickets. The thing about war, it turns mechanics into surgeons. One wrong spark here, and we'd carve holes in our own lungs. The cannon had to sit low and centered, right on her belly line. Think of balancing a bowling ball on a cradle too high. She'd tip forward. Too low. She'd rip apart. Buddy. That's a lot of math for guys who skipped college. Porter. We didn't skip it. We just joined the crash course. Red. Keep cracking jokes. Gravity's listening. 15-pound shells. High explosive preferred. Stowage. Improvised rack. Forward cabin. Safety note. Keep clear of recoil path. Ammunition weighed like doubt. Every round was a promise we'd have to keep. Mount bolts, snug. Dock. Check. Recoil damper. Tight. Trigger circuit. Isolated. Continuity light. Green. Safety latch. Engaged. Brew coffee. Negative. Morale. Questionable. Proceed anyway. Confirmed. Outside, the storm kept pounding the roof like it wanted in. Inside, every clang of metal was another heartbeat. Porter welded Jeep steel to her nose, scavenged from a wreck we towed in last week. He said if it was good enough to stop a Tiger's round, it was good enough to hold one of ours. Buddy, you sure that Jeep steel's gonna hold? Porter. Hell, It held the Jeep together in North Africa. Red. Yeah, until it didn't. Every job had a risk. Every fix had a prayer. You could hear the hail tapping the hangar skin. And for a second, it sounded like applause. Young mechanic. You ever think what happens if it doesn't hold? Porter. Then we go down in history, or in pieces. Either way, we go. Buddy, I'll drink to that. If I had anything left to drink? Red. Focus, boys, let's get her angry before the sun gets up. You don't plan jobs like this, you survive them. Each man learned the rhythm of the other. Hammer, weld, tighten, wipe the frost from your eyebrows. We ran power through old radio circuits. Fuses kept blowing like firecrackers. Porter swapped them with spare vacuum tubes. Said, if it works for jazz, it works for war. Buddy. Circuit's alive. You want the honors? Red. You built it, you fry it. Buddy. Fair enough. Buddy. No smoke. That's progress. Red. Don't jinx it. By now. The hangar smelled like coffee we didn't have. Steel we couldn't afford. And hope we didn't admit. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, the only sound was purpose. She was waking up. You could feel it, the hum through the floor, the vibration in your boots. For the first time, the hangar didn't feel like a shelter. It felt like a forge. We didn't ask for permission. We just made it work. You don't wait for orders when the men out there are dying for lack of ideas. Men like us, grease monkeys, pilots, kids who should have been home, we didn't think about history. We thought about getting one more plane off the ground, about turning fear into noise. By 3 a.m, she didn't look like a transport anymore. She looked angry. Angry in a good way, the kind of anger that says, try me. We didn't know if she'd fly. We didn't even know if she'd survive the first shot. But by dawn, we'd built her heartbeat. She wasn't born in a factory that night. She was born out of desperation, caffeine fumes, and a hangar full of stubborn souls who refused to let the world stay as it was. By dawn, she looked different. Angry, heavy, like she'd spent the night thinking about revenge. The commander didn't ask what we'd done. He just said, test it. No ceremony, no speech. Just 2 words and a long stare. She smelled of oil and frost and nerves. The cannon sat forward like a clenched jaw. Red, battery, buddy, on, red, mags, buddy, both, red, mixture, buddy, rich, red, prop, buddy, full, red, flaps, buddy, short roll, set, red, gun circuit, buddy, safe. Red, we arm on the run, buddy, copy, arming on your mark. She waddled, then she rose, slow, stubborn, like she had to remember how to fly. 2,000 feet, frost creeping along the glass. Every vibration felt like a question. Will she hold? Buddy, leveling. 2,000. 1 he up. Sights a grease line and a prayer. Call it. Red. Shot. The recoil hit like a mule. My shoulder slammed the harness. The nose groaned. But she held. Again. Buddy. Reloaded. Trim adjusted. +2. Red. Call it. Buddy. Shot. She kicked again. But steadier. Like she wanted to prove the first one wasn't luck. My ribs ached. The harness dug in. But my hands stayed steady. You could feel her finding balance, the way a boxer learns to roll with the punch. Touchdown felt heavier than takeoff. My bones still humming from the recoil. Buddy, I can't feel my hands. Red. Means they're still attached. Officer. Observation. Red. Recoil severe. Airframe held. Trim correction +2 on the elevator. Buddy. Switch 3 arced first go. We cleaned the run, fused right after. Porter. Steel's biting. We'll sister the plates, add ribs along station 45. Should stop the nose from flexing. Officer. You understand. No one ordered this. Red. Sir. The tanks didn't either. Officer. God help me. It worked. Proceed with discretion. The debrief took 10 minutes. The smiles lasted longer. Porter kept rubbing his hands like he'd just shaken the devils. Recoil deflection measured 3 degrees, nose down, minor trim loss. Porter's note said, frame flex, within tolerance. Pilot shook, more than plain. He wasn't wrong. My chest still buzzed from the shock. You don't just feel recoil in your hands, you feel it in your ribs, your teeth. Every joint sings the same note for a minute straight. Buddy. Hell. She actually did it. Porter. Told you she'd bite. Red. Yeah. Let's hope she doesn't bite back. Outside, the fog was lifting. The hangar lights flickered off one by one. She sat there, smoking gently from the nose, looking less like a cargo plane and more like something the war itself had built out of spite. We'd taken a truck with wings, given it a cannon, and somehow it hadn't torn itself apart. No medal for that. No headline. Just the sound of something impossible choosing to work. You could call it madness or mercy. Out here, they're the same thing, based on field accounts not officially recorded. That morning, we proved she could fire. Next, we'd learn if she could fight, they said one sortie. See what happens, they said. 4 of us went up me, Buddy, Bill, and a prayer. Ground. Armor near the orchard line moving east. Roads clogged with half-tracks. We can mark with red smoke. Red. Copy. Red smoke. We're low and slow. If you hear a tractor that sounds angry, that's us. Ground. Godspeed, Skytrain. We weren't supposed to be here. Fighters had the range, the rockets, the training. We had a cargo plane and a gun bolted where Sense used to live. Buddy. Gun armed. 1 he ready. 2 in the rack. Rockets, if they actually fire. Porter. Frame singing but not screaming. Keep her smooth, Cap. We called her Sky Reaper now. Half joke, half warning. Buddy. See that? The bend. Red flare. North side of the road. Red. Got it. Buddy. Target 1 the bend. Call it. Red. Shot. The world blinked white. The nose dipped half a foot. Then, through the smoke, I saw it hit. Ground radioman. Direct. The bends blocked. Second. Vehicles. Stuck. Buddy was already loading the next one. You could hear the shell slide home like a heartbeat. Buddy. Second round up. Tell Fate to look away. Red. Fate's busy. Buddy. Then let's make her jealous. Fire. 2 for 2. The second blast rolled the road up like a rug. Porter. Right wing's got a fist. Sized hole. Engines hold. Keep turning. Buddy. Trims drifting 5 degrees right. Correcting. Door gunner. 50 cals talking. We circled at 500 feet too high for small arms. Too low for comfort. You don't fight physics up here. You bargain with it. Buddy. 1 more shell. She can take it. Red. Make it count. 3 shots. The limit. Any more. And we'd shake the bolts loose. The air smelled like cordite and victory. 10 minutes of hell. Then silence. Buddy. Oil pressure dropping on left engine. Porter. She's bleeding, but she's breathing. Keep her under 2,000. Red. Copy that. Hold together, sweetheart. The right wing looked like a sieve. 1 rocket rack gone. 1 engine coughing. But she flew like she always did. Through noise, smoke, and prayer. Porter. She's cracked, but she's whole. Buddy. And my ears are ringing. Red. She works. 2 words. That's all I had left in me. We'd done what no one thought possible. A cargo plane. Killing tanks. The commander walked up. Didn't salute. Didn't smile. Just stared at the cannon. Then, at me. Commander, you realize this was unauthorized. Red. So was getting shot at, sir. Commander, get some sleep. You'll need it. Porter's report sounded like poetry to me. Alive. Buddy. Guess she's not just a truck anymore. Red. No. She's a fighter. With bad manners. We had no medals waiting. No photographers. Just men with frozen hands. Grinning. Through black smoke. Because for one insane morning, we'd beaten the odds. She wasn't fast, she wasn't pretty. But when the infantry called, she answered. That's all that ever mattered. The word spread fast. Across hangars, across fields, the truck with wings fired back. And for the first time, we believed she could do more than survive. She could fight. She worked once, she'd work again. Command called it unauthorized. We called it necessary. By February, others were trying the same thing. Bigger guns, side mounts, different tricks. No two alike. Everyone a Frankenstein that could bite. Converted transport used in ground assault role. Cannon effective. Recommend further testing. Signed, Technical Officer, 9th Air Force Engineering Detachment. There was no program. No budget line. Just whispers and boys who were tired of watching friends pinned down by armor. If headquarters wouldn't send an answer, we built one. From scrap. You could walk any depot from Normandy to Liège and hear it the hum of welding, the buzz of rumor. The generals never wrote it down, but the telegrams did the talking. Every message, a quiet confession that something wild was working. Some crews bolted on twin 37s. Others strapped rocket tubes from wrecked Lightnings. A few went sideways literal side guns, Browning 50s firing out the doors. If it could spit lead, we tried it. It wasn't pretty. But when that gun barked, you felt the whole world pay attention. We didn't know it then, but we'd planted a seed, and seeds have a way of growing long after the hands that buried them are gone. 1964 to 65. Project Gunship, FC-47, AC-47, Spooky, Captain Ron W. Terry, Eglin, AFB. They took the same old airframe our Skytrain and taught it a new trick. They put the guns along her side and taught her to circle like a hawk. A pylon turn, that's what they called it. Bank the plane just right, and every bullet from the side guns draws a perfect circle of fire on the ground. Keep that circle tight enough, and nothing inside it walks away. They called it a gunship. We called it the future, catching up with a rumor. They named her Puff the Magic Dragon. Same heart, same spirit, just faster and louder. I saw footage on TV years later, that circling firestorm. Told my kids, see that? That's what your old man tried to build with a wrench and a prayer. What we'd done in a freezing French hangar became a doctrine in the jungle. They had official memos, factory kits, and names printed on the tail. We had none of that, but we had the same faith that a slow plane, if armed right, could change the fight. They had miniguns. We had welding torches. Different tools, same idea. Speed isn't the soul of a plane. Purpose is. And when I first saw that beast, the AC-47 lighting up the jungle, I laughed, because I recognized her heartbeat. Different war, different faces, but I could hear the echo of every hammer strike from 1944, every laugh, every curse, every spark from that hangar. They say invention comes from genius. Maybe. But sometimes it just comes from exhaustion and not enough coffee. Dear Anna, we took a plane meant to carry bread and blankets and asked it to carry fear away instead. The night we built her, the rain never stopped. It hit the tin roof like it was counting seconds we didn't have. Sparks lit the hangar blue, and every weld looked like a prayer we couldn't say out loud. Porter burned his gloves through. Buddy wired the trigger wrong twice and called it practice. I just kept looking at that empty nose, wondering if we were building salvation or suicide. When the cannon first kicked, it shook every bone in my chest. The nose screamed, the engines groaned, but she held. I remember the sky that morning, Anna. It wasn't heroic. It was grey, cold, and honest. We didn't fly for medals. We flew so some other boys wouldn't have to crawl. The smell of oil and cordite never really leaves you. Sometimes when thunder rolls, I still hear her firing once, twice, steady, proud, love, ah. I never mailed that letter. Some truths you don't send. You just carry them like a spare fuse. Small, hot, necessary. They melted her down after the war. No medals, no records, just smoke and memory. But every gunship since AC-47, AC-119, AC-130 carries her ghost in its wings. She flew again, in 100 new skins, each one faster, louder, but with the same heartbeat. Buddy went home to Texas after the war, opened a car shop, said engines were calmer when they didn't shoot back. Porter stayed in the service, kept planes alive till Korea. He used to write once a year, always the same line. She worked, didn't she? Yeah, Bill. She did. I stood in front of one once. Perfect paint, no scars, no burn marks. She looked beautiful but not honest. The ones that mattered never made it to museums. We weren't trying to make history. We were just trying to keep our boys alive another day. People think innovation comes from brilliance, but most of the time, it comes from sleepless nights, cold fingers, and a problem that won't wait. Sometimes, the future of war isn't born in laboratories. It's born overnight, in a freezing hangar, when someone looks at an old cargo plane and says, "Why not?" They call the new one Spectre, big word for a ghost, but I think she'd smile at that. The ghost lives on. Not in the metal, in the will. War changes names, places, faces, but the tools they remember, who made them. When they ask where it started, tell them it began in a hangar that smelled of rain and coffee and courage. Tell them it began with a joke that nobody laughed at, and a plane that decided not to die quietly. The papers said there was no record. That's fine. The sky remembers. Framed as field rumor. No official record exists for a 75mm armed C-47 inches World War II. The Spirit lived on AC-47, Spooky, AC-119, AC-130, Spectre.